33-year-old John Napolitano had been a firefighter for nearly his entire life. Coming from a family of teachers, nurses, and first responders, he answered the call to public service early on. At the age of 16, and while still in high school, Napolitano volunteered as a junior firefighter in the suburban Long Island town where he grew up. He was dedicated to his job and over the years took every opportunity to advance his career. He eventually became a New York City firefighter and was assigned to Rescue Company 2 in Brooklyn, New York.
Napolitano was married to his high school sweetheart, Anne, and they had two daughters, Elizabeth, age 6, and Emma, age 2. In the afternoon of Monday, September 10, 2001, Napolitano left his wife and daughters and headed to the firehouse for a grueling 24-hour shift. It was a relatively quiet night, and as the hours passed, Napolitano, known for his sense of humor, shared jokes and stories with the 6 other firefighters on duty that night. Later in the evening, as he typically did when he worked an overnight shift, he called home to say goodnight to Anne, Elizabeth, and Emma.
The next morning, September 11th, was a beautiful fall morning with a bright sunny blue sky. At 8:46 a.m., the firemen on duty from Rescue Company 2 were tending to some work outside the firehouse when they heard the deafening noise of a low-flying plane. Napolitano looked up just in time to see a huge explosion in the sky only a few miles away.
I was in my first few weeks of student teaching.
I was teaching history at Brockton High School.
Estaba en Buenaventura, Colombia, dictando una clase.
I was actually outside teaching flag football with a bunch of 5th graders.
I was a sophomore at Assumption College.
I was substitute teaching at Farley.
I was a 2nd or 3rd year teacher.
I was in 7th grade.
I was a school teacher at Chesapeake, Virginia. My husband was in the Navy at the time, and we had 2 very young children.
I was in 11th grade, AP US History class.
I was a new mom. I had a 4-month-old baby.
I was teaching.
I was a sophomore in college.
I was a 7th grader at Toronto Regional High School.
Eu estava em Portugal a pintar a casa da minha mãe.
I was teaching in Rimini Old High School.
Esa mañana me acuerdo que septiembre 11 me levanto todas las mañanas como siempre.
I was in college when the planes hit, and I was in college in the Midwest, so we were pretty far from all the action.
I was actually teaching here at Hudson High School.
The explosion that Napolitano saw was American Airlines Flight 11, which was hijacked by Al-Qaeda terrorists after leaving from Boston's Logan Airport and crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Immediately, Napolitano and the 6 other crew members jumped into the fire truck and headed to the scene.
The firefighters of Rescue Company 2 were the first to reach the World Trade Center that morning. Just after they arrived, around 9 a.m., they felt the earth-shattering blast of terrorists crashing United Airlines Flight 175 into the South Tower. As debris fell to the streets and smoke filled the air around the buildings, the firefighters of Rescue Company 2 entered the North Tower and began to usher people to safety. As the minutes passed, hundreds of firefighters, policemen, and EMTs from all across the city rushed to the World Trade Center to help.
My hobby before I retired from industry and became a teacher was flying. Just the Sunday before, so 2 days before, I pushed my button on my microphone and I said, 440 Romeo Papa, northbound, east side of the river, Twin Towers, reporting my spot. And here it is Tuesday morning, and that spot is gone.
At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower of the World Trade Center succumbed to the fires caused by the crash and collapsed. Despite seeing this, when a call for help came from a group of firefighters trapped on the 83rd floor of the North Tower, all 7 members of Rescue Company 2 began to climb the stairs in an effort to save them. As they climbed, the North Tower crumbled to the ground.
By the end of the morning on September 11th, terrorists hijacked a 3rd plane and crashed into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. A 4th hijacked plane, likely destined for the U.S. Capitol building, was overtaken by its passengers and crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
The terrorist attacks that morning took the lives of 2,977 people, including 343 firefighters and 60 policemen. Included in that number was John Napolitano and the 6 other crew members of Rescue Company 2. Who were last seen climbing up the stairs of the North Tower when it collapsed.
And the silence was deafening. We had just seen 50 to 100 firefighters just go into the building, so no one had any words to say.
And it became a truly terrifying experience. Everybody was crying, the teachers were upset, and it changed our history from this day forward. We had to come together as a country to learn and to survive.
And my husband was a firefighter at the time.
And when I came home from work, he told me that he was volunteering to go to New York to work with the recovery effort.
I got home and didn't know what to do, watching the TV, tried not watching the TV. He had mentioned that they would be in a blackout zone, and I talked to some of the other military wives as well. They'd be in a blackout zone where they can't receive phone calls, they can't make phone calls, they couldn't get text out, emails, even snail mail.
So it was a really tough time, but the good thing is that we always look to the helpers and we find the good people to help pull us through those tough times.
Untold number of firefighters and police officers and rescue crews that while everybody else was running away frantically, you had these firefighters that were running towards the buildings or helping people get out of the buildings. It was just simply, it was an act of heroism that I had, that I don't think I had ever witnessed before or have ever seen since.
Today is the 17th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks. However, in all of the carnage of that day, we can find stories of genuine bravery like those of John Napolitano and Rescue Company 2. As victims of the attack frantically fled the scene, firefighters, police officers, and ambulance crews did something truly amazing. They rushed towards the disaster, ran into the buildings, up the stairs, and into the fire.
Quando estávamos a ver as notícias e vimos que avião tinha atingido um dos prédios e parecia filme, ninguém acreditou no início, até que começámos a perceber que era verdade e ficámos o dia inteiro, a tarde toda, a ver as notícias e a ver o que estava a passar. Não acreditávamos.
My best friend lived in New York City at the time, so it was a nerve-wracking day because I didn't hear from her the whole day, and she didn't have a cell phone, she had a pager, so I was able to try and send her a page and got a message back that she had sent to everyone that she was okay.
Devastador. Nunca esperé mirar algo así que estuviese ocurriendo en los Estados Unidos.
They canceled a whole week of practices, which was so strange to us, and I really didn't get the magnitude of it until I really got home and my mom started talking to me about it.
And I will also remember the next morning, the drive into work. It's usually very hectic and people are, cutting each other off, but it was at least 10, 15 miles an hour slower. Everyone was incredibly patient with each other and just allowed folks to shift lanes, no issues, no fighting. It was very interesting.
You would drive down the road and people would have flags outside of their car windows, flags hanging from windows in apartments. Flags were everywhere.
As a New Yorker, it was a crisis that shook me to my core. I have family that still lives in Manhattan, and I grew up going to the fire station in New York because my grandfather was a New York City firefighter. So as those men and women rushed into those buildings in the hope of saving people that were trapped, I just thought about my grandfather.
And then I also remember just watching the news all that night, all that week, lots of crying, watching things over and over again, a lot of disbelief.
So he said, turn on the news, and I had asked what channel, and he said any channel, and my heart sank because I knew that whatever it was that was going on outside of my quiet little town of Hudson was pretty serious.
In Massachusetts, we have seen this type of bravery firsthand. Boston's first responders acted heroically and risked their lives during the Boston Marathon bombings and its aftermath in April 2013. Here in Hudson, our police officers and firefighters work to protect us each day.
Marked by death and destruction, a day like September 11, 2001 is certainly one that will live in infamy for our nation and the world. However, in our memory of that day, we can still change the narrative. In the face of unimaginable conditions, first responders were called to a higher place, a place where they ran straight into danger, risking and giving their lives to save others. If we focus on their actions in the midst of this devastating day, we can find strength, faith, hope, and love.
Everybody was trying so hard to process it and to try to make sense of it, and you just would watch it over and over until, and it never made sense, and everybody just really knew at that point that the world had changed.
All I can tell you is that hug your parents, hug your friends, and don't wait to say that you love them, because you never know if you're going to have that chance.
For a period of time, it didn't matter who you were, it didn't matter if you were a Republican or a Democrat, if you were black or white or gay or straight or anything. It was people helping people, and I think that idea of coming together is to help others is something that the first responders really exemplified, and something that maybe we've lost a little bit of in the years since September 11th.
Each class has note cards, which you can use to write a letter of thanks to a first responder. You can write to a local first responder from Hudson or to someone from Boston or New York City.
Each year our letters go to a new group of firehouses and police stations, so even if you have done this activity several times in years past, a new first responder will likely see your note of gratitude. Also, each year we have done this activity, our school has received notes back from the first responders telling us that our letters help them know that we appreciate what they do and the risks that they take each day on our behalf.
Please write neatly and only use your first name when signing the letter. Be sure to circle what city you would like your letter sent to and what type of first responder you would like to receive it. Next week, we will send your letter to the appropriate destination, the local firehouse and police station in Hudson, Boston, or New York City.